Good evening, friends and family, and thank you for coming to another night with Repair, Restore, and Grow Black Communities behind Black business. And tonight we have another wonderful guest in our midst, Devin Jones. Devin is a ward committeeman for the 18th ward, and Devin is a Republican. And I do have to say, at the beginning of our show, we're not a political organization. We do not support any particular party or candidate, but we do discuss issues that politics have in terms of their impact on our community. And our political arena has a great impact on our community. So we welcome, guests from many genres and many areas on our show. And so, Devin, I want to thank you for taking special time out of your busy schedule because we interview business people and authors, and everybody is busy. And I know you're busy. So I want to thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Absolutely. And as you know, we're a nonprofit foundation and we're working to enhance the awareness and support of Black businesses. This is one way we felt that we could help the community by trying to raise the consciousness of supporting Black businesses. So, one of the things that we do is we have this podcast every Wednesday night behind Black business, and we have people from our community, many business people, and like I said, authors, individuals like yourself, community activists, to talk about what they are doing. And that's something that we realize is that we have so many people out here doing so many wonderful things, but it doesn't get into the mainstream media. It seemed to be skewed about what's not going on in the community and what people want us to see is going on. But we have some people out here doing some wonderful work like yourself. And I want people to know about the work that you're doing. And we feel that by supporting Black businesses, they're going to hire people from the community. They're going to help circulate that dollar, and that's why our businesses are so important. And we're great proponents of our Black bookstores. I think we had a conversation last night. Devin and Adeline was really pushing, the libraries, and rightly so, because reading is very important. And we think so much of it that we're supporting our Black bookstores. We used to have like 22 Black bookstores here in Chicago. That's a lot. And
Yeah.
that means a lot of people were reading. And it dwindled down and it dwindled down and it dwindled down. And we were down to two at one point. But there is a resurgence of Black bookstores, whether they're brick and mortar or online. And if you go to our website at rrgbc.org, we have bookstores, Black bookstores here in Chicago listed on our website. And I believe there are a couple new bookstores that I need to make contact with, but we have to support our Black bookstores. And we go, what we do is we feature a Black bookstore on our website every month, and we select a book from that store. And one of our subscribers has an opportunity to win that book. And all you have to do is go to rrgbc.org, subscribe. If your name is selected, then you will win that book. We pay for the shipping, we pay for the book, and all we ask is that you read it and have a discussion, share the knowledge with other people, and even share the book if you like with other people, because knowledge is power. And that's what Devin is about here tonight, getting knowledge. And our book for this month was Lovable Racists, Magical Negroes, White Messiah by David Icker. Now, that title speaks to itself. And our winner for this month is Shannon Wilson. So, Shannon, we'll be contacting you and getting your contact information. and we're very happy and anxious to get that book shipped out to you. And this was chosen by Brother Yoel at the Underground Bookstore, which is located at 1727 East 87th Street. And I believe the Underground Bookstore is our oldest Black bookstore here in Chicago. And someone may be able to, I will stand corrected if that's not true, but I know he's been over there in that area for a very long time. And this is the book that he selected for this. We are also supporters of the Southside Community Federal Credit Union, which is a Black-owned financial institution located at Wentworth and Garfield. And in order for our banks to thrive, we have to open up accounts. And we have our money in many banks who do not give the return that they should be giving to us based on all of the deposits that we're making in and out of their accounts. And so we ask you to go to the Southside Community Federal Credit Union. They give free financial literacy classes on Saturdays, and they offer in different types of loans, and they're giving considerations to the individuals. When they first started, they were giving loans to people who couldn't go in some of these major banks and give loans. But we have to have some integrity. When we get a loan from the Southside Community Federal Credit Union, we have to pay that loan back, or else they can't survive. So we ask that you support the Southside Community Federal Credit Union. And finally, please go to our website where we have an online store, and you can purchase from our store and also make donations to help our organization do the work that we're doing. So, Devin, um, the reason I asked you to be on our show is when I heard that you were giving civics classes at your office, and I thought that was so profound. Um, but before we get into all of that, I would like to give you an opportunity to let the listeners know just who Devin Jones is. You've got a very diverse background here of experiences, and so I'm gonna give you an opportunity to just talk about who you are and what you're doing out here in the community.
Sure. So I am the 18th Ward Republican Committeeman. Prior to doing this in my life, I'm also a sexual assault victim advocate. That's my daytime job. And prior to this, I worked for the Diocese of Columbus, Ohio, and I did evangelization outreach, and I helped start a reentry ministry in Central Ohio to help people who were returning from prison
Mm,
basically get acclimated. Um, Simple things that we take for granted, getting IDs, housing, healthcare, jobs, so that they didn't return to prison or to a life of crime. Prior to that, I was a United States Navy sailor. I was a sexual assault victim advocate in the United States Navy, and my primary job was I was a master at arms, and I did mostly law enforcement, anti-terrorism, force protection, which is a fancy way of saying I protected big ships, nuclear material, classified documents. Um, I worked on some investigations with NCIS, if you know that show. It's nothing like the show. It's a lot less dramatic. It's a lot more boring. So I
mhm,
worked in investigations, investigating things like waste, fraud, and abuse, sexual assaults, violent crimes, uh, people bringing weapons on base, stuff like that.
mhm,
Um, and I was also I worked with the voting officer for the Mid Atlantic region, so I helped register sailors to vote, ensure that they voted in their primaries and in their general elections in their home jurisdictions, especially sailors who were from the state of Illinois. And then prior to that, the reason I joined the Navy was I was a school teacher. I worked in Holy Angels over in Bronzeville, St. Helena of the Cross, which is now closed, and St. John de La Salle, both in the Roseland area. I taught theology, Latin, and junior high civics. And I adopted two of my students who were homeless, and so I could no longer teach. I had to leave teaching to basically go through to take care of them. So I joined the military to take care of them, and then that's kind of the story of who I am. I
Mhm.
ran for committeeman because I am a Republican. I'm a conservative. I'm a Christian first and foremost. I am a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ, and so my political values are biblical values. I don't subscribe to the Republican Party because it's so fantastic. When I weigh the two parties, this is the one that is closer to biblical values, and so when I realized that there were no active Black Republican committeemen across the South Side, I decided instead of complaining about what I saw, that I would be the change. And so I ran in 2020. I didn't have any opposition, and I started the South Side Republican organization in order to have an opposition house for us. It's unconscionable that in a representative democracy, in a constitutional republic that has two parties, we are totally absent from the other side. And so I wanted a place where there was a Republican conservative organization that looked out for the interest of Black people, and specifically the American freedmen. And so that's what we are. The Southside Republicans is a radical Republican organization, meaning the original term of radical Republicanism, which was for the liberation and restoration of Black people. And so that is our primary focus in this organization, is empowering the Black electorate to rise up and to really ensure that the full force of the state and federal constitution are felt in our communities. And that's not happening right now.
So, people have knowledge or at least some awareness of the fact that Black people used to be Republican.
Yes, yes.
What happened there with the shift?
A number of things. People talk about a switch. The reality is that first and foremost, the Republican Party went through almost 100-year process called the Lily White movement of removing Black people from leadership. In the 1890s, the head of the Texas Republican Party was a Black man. We know the first U.S. senators and representatives after slavery and during Reconstruction, the first Blacks in Congress, they were Republican. Uh,
Mhm.
Throughout the later half of the 1800s into the early half of the 1900s, we were by and large Republicans, and the radical Republican movement was the most powerful movement in the Republican Party. And then moderates started to come in who wanted to change. They really wanted those Southern white votes. They wanted to compromise. They were a little less conservative, meaning to conserve the Constitution and a constitutional republic. That's what that means. That's why we're called conservatives, because we are conserving a constitutional republic. So we had moderates who were more liberal, if you will, more progressive, if you will, who wanted those Southern white and Northern white votes. And they thought that they could take the Black vote for granted. And the reality is push us out. And they were effective, along with the fact that the Democrat Party started to make inroads and actually go after more liberal, progressive minded Black people with the Harlem Renaissance, so on and so forth, until you got to a point where Black people were only welcomed by Northern Democrats. And so in
Mhm.
a city like Chicago, you had people like Oscar Dupree who switched from Republican to Democrat. It wasn't an ideological change. It was if I'm going to be involved in civics and politics, there's nowhere else for me to go but to this group. And so unfortunately, uh, we were kind of, I hate to use the word used, because people take that and think that somebody thinks that Black people are ignorant or stupid. I don't believe that at all. But people do use our bodies for their gain, and that's what the
Mhm.
Democrat Party did. while the Republican Party took us for granted. And so the last president to receive a sizable amount of the black vote was Richard Nixon. And after that, we were solidly into the Democrat Party, unfortunately. And um, in my opinion, it has been a downhill trajectory for us ever since because we see what communities like uh, on the south side and on the west side look like, and they shouldn't look like that,
Mhm.
especially when we are the people by and large who are in charge now.
So it seems like with both parties, we've been in a position where we've been taken for granted.
Yes,
Our votes have been taken for granted.
yes,
Um, but something similar happens in both parties.
yes,
And what
yes.
is that?
I think that we're used by both parties. You
Hmm.
know, people prop up a person, and it has happened to me. I'm not gonna miss any words. Like people will try to take pictures with me just because they need to show that Black Republicans are doing stuff. There are
Hmm.
people out there right here, in Chicago and nationwide, who are used, and there's no tangible. The reality is if you look at their platforms, first of all, I know that this is a nonpartisan show, so I'm saying this is my opinion and
Sure.
not the opinion of the show. But when you look at the Democrat platform, they have an agenda for LGBTQ people. They have an agenda for everybody except for Black people. When you look at the Republican Party, they also have an agenda, and they don't have a specific agenda for Black people. They really don't have a specific agenda for anybody. But see, I can work with that because some of those policies that they advocate for, a return to constitutional government, that is beneficial to us. I would rather you leave me alone than to do something to me. Every time
Mhm.
you want to create a program, you have to take money out of my pocket to do it. The government just doesn't have a pot of money. They either are going to quote unquote borrow it from the Federal Reserve, which to me is unconstitutional, or they're going to take it from you. Both of those are to me are it leads to death, poverty, and destruction for our communities. So I advocate for, and the Southside Republicans advocates for a return to basic constitutional government at the federal and the state level. We don't need more programs because the programs go to 501c3s that are governed by people who take the money and they buy cars and houses or they build up these churches. We never see the money.
Mhm.
Violence prevention money, the violence is not being prevented. You look at economic development money, if there's all this economic development money, why does our community look the way it does? Why you said that there used to be 22 Black bookstores and
Mhm.
now there's two, three, a handful? That's unconscionable.
Mhm.
We look at people struggling to open up small businesses, to buy houses, to even buy a car to get from point A to point B. Um, we look at neighborhoods that are overrun with violent crime, but then you tell us that we can't own weapons to protect and defend ourselves, even though we have a Second Amendment right. You know, so when you look at what is happening, this is unsustainable. And so I would rather just return to the basics of the Constitution. Give us our money back. You don't have to take a third of our paycheck anymore. You don't have to
Mhm.
take a third of what we make cutting hair or selling food to our community. We will ensure that our people are hired. We will ensure that our people are literate with our own bookstores, with our own community owned libraries. We will make sure that our kids have the recreation they need, whether it be in our backyards, in the front yards, or in our own parks that we own, that we control. That's what I would like to go back to.
Now, what about our schools?
I am not an advocate of the public school system. It was not created for us. It does not educate us well. If you've ever heard, and I think Minister Latasha Fields has been on your podcast before, you know that we are at 82, 85, 92% uh, um, basically functional illiteracy in our community because of these public schools. And I know that there are a great many households who have had teachers, Black households who have had teachers on the
Mhm.
rolls, but we can no longer afford the Chicago public school system at $10 billion at a with a pension crisis that's out of control. And these kids are nothing is happening in those schools but sexual indoctrination, strange racialized ideologies that don't empower, but that seek to, y'all were just slaves, but
Mhm.
nothing to say how we can take that and actually propel ourselves forward.
Right.
Nothing to say how strong we are. And the kids can't read, they can't write, they can't do math, they can't do science. There's no trades. We're fighting for trades. Give us our children back.
Mhm.
In fact, give the building to us. We can create our own community schools. We can pool our money and pay those teachers at a far cheaper rate than what's happening. Right now, if you look at your property tax bill, Chicago Public Schools is the largest portion of that. And
Mhm.
no one knows where that money is going. It's going to unions. And the unions are looking out for Black people. In fact, at this point, they're getting rid of Black teachers. They're getting rid of Black principals.
Oh,
They're
they've
hiring,
gotten rid of Black teachers.
yeah, yeah, what, 10,000 to date
Yes.
or more? We
Yes.
we have they're hiring these Teach for America people that they're bringing from all over. And if you look at even in the contract negotiations, the Chicago Teachers Union cares more about foreign national children than it does about the people who were born here.
Mhm.
And it's not that I don't have compassion for people escaping, tumultuous countries, but those people voted for that. Just like we keep voting for this. So do I get to hop up and take my family to Canada? Is Mexico going to take me? Is Venezuela going to take me after all of the racism and death, poverty, and destruction wrought on the south side of Chicago?
Mhm.
Absolutely not. And so, because we cannot afford mentally or monetarily to take care of our own people, all those people have to go back home while we
Mhm.
get our house in order. And again, in going back to the school system, we cannot afford Chicago public school system, both intellectually, spiritually, or monetarily. Pull these kids out. I am not in favor of CPS because it's not in favor of us.
I know why we blame a lot on rap music, the violence in the rap music, the violence in the games, but also, as you say, this deterioration of the educational system
Yes,
and its impact on the person that you're preparing to come out here and pass the torch to, so to speak, to take over. They are ill equipped, as
yes,
you say, not able to
yes,
read, not able to write. They do not have the appropriate base of fundamental knowledge about
yes,
our history and our government. And so, what kind of citizens, what kind of parents, what kind of workers are
yes.
they going to be with that going on?
Yeah, I mean, and we are seeing that with the disaster that has become the workforce in Chicago, where businesses are not able to hire people. When they do, they're not able to count. I've gone to places where the 18, 19, 20 year olds, the change might be 55 cents and they don't know what a nickel is. These are real stories. And I think a lot of people have those stories. You give 100 for, something that's $5.76. Maybe you give 100 and they're scrambling to figure out how to count the money. These are basic things that we were all taught. But see, I go back to, my mother took me out of Chicago public schools in 1995. That was the year, I believe, that something like 10,000 Black boys were sent to summer school and different things like that.
How
I was
old
one
were
of those
you
boys.
then?
You said what?
How old were you then?
I was in fifth grade. I was 9, 10 years old, something like that. I was 10. It was 96. So I was 10. And I had a teacher, I'll never forget her name, Miss Dollin. And she told me I had come from the suburbs and it was a diverse school. And so I came to Chicago 80 Charles Carroll School right on 83rd and Francisco, and I knew all the answers. I was just raising my hands. I love history, social studies, always been my favorite subject. And she got sick of me, and she pulled me aside one day and she said, "I'm going to show you what it's like to be a normal student. You will not pass this grade." And while my Iowa test, if anybody remembers the Iowa test, my scores were through the roof. But she gave me all F's, and she sent me to summer school. And when I got to summer school at Julius Rosenwald, the teacher, he was this real big guy. He said,
Mhm.
the first day he did an assessment of the kids, and he said, "Huh, did you have Miss Dolan?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "That explains why you're here. Do you know that that man, he would, I would show up one day a week. He said, you don't need to be here. I would show up on Monday. He would give me all my work. I would come back the following Monday, turn it in because he didn't think that I needed to sit there all day." And so
Now,
for
was
that,
she black or white?
she was white. She was a white teacher.
Wow.
She sent half the class to summer school,
Mm, mm.
half the class. And to this day, any of us that went to Charles Carroll and had Miss Dolan, they'll say she was a racist. We
Mhm.
couldn't articulate it back then. We
Sure.
couldn't even tell our parents what was going on. We didn't know. We were just
Okay.
kids. But now I can effectively say that she hated black kids, and she had taught at that school when it was all white, and then the neighborhood became black, and so we filled the school. I had a classroom at that year. We were in a trailer with 40 kids in the class. So
Mhm.
going back to 1995, 96, the Chicago public school system has been a disaster, especially for black boys and black girls. And so I can never advocate for something that has created a generation of people who have had to struggle with education, struggle with intellect. That you are creating poverty. That's what that does. You are creating people who are not able to be normalized in society, don't know their constitutional rights because they can't even read the Constitution. So we got to come out.
So, what do you propose as something very, very feasible that people could start doing? You
I
know.
I think community schools,
Hmm.
there are a number of homeschooling if you can homeschool. I know that's a really uphill battle, especially when now we live in a society where um, both parents have to work. If you have both parents, we live in a society where we are not fostering parents to really take charge of their authority. Again, shout out to Ronald and Latasha Fields with Epic who talk about this all the time.
Sure.
Um, so I think one, as a community, we need to support our parents. We need to start instilling parental values into our parents, and our elders need to show parents how to better parent. Second, we got churches next to churches, next to churches, next to
Absolutely.
churches. Those people, they're only meeting on Sunday. There's no reason that you can't open that church up for a community school, for some type of co-op to start educating our children and pulling them out of this debaucherous public school system.
So,
Um, and
so,
yeah,
so looking at a system like that, how um, okay, I think many of these 10,000 teachers out here, I don't know where they went,
yeah,
but we seem like we could pull from that pool because many parents would need help,
yes,
with how to help their children through the coursework.
correct.
Um, but where would the resources come from?
So for those who were allowed to early retire or take buyouts, you know, if they care about the community, they should be those teachers first and foremost. I would look at that pool of people, and there's enough people who are on that retirement payroll, so they're good. Their bills are still able to get paid. I think another thing is we're going to have to come to some hard truths and hard facts in our community, and we are going to have to start massive. And I know I'm speaking pie in the sky, but We need a massive wave of financial literacy in our community, proper
Mm-hmm.
budgeting. I guarantee you that the vast majority of our families, the amount of money we spend on gadgets, on eating out, on clothes that maybe we don't need, expensive clothes. Maybe it is Walmart that we go to get our clothes from. Maybe we do bargain shop as opposed to wearing the best. All you got to do is cover your body, right? And so taking that extra money and pushing it towards community schools, paying teachers, helping, a person like me, maybe I can volunteer my time, but somebody else, maybe they do need gas money to get there. Maybe we need to start kind of like we did with the Montgomery bus boycott, right?
Mm-hmm.
People had cars, they loaded them cars up, and instead of them putting money in the bus fare, they actually they gave money to the driver so he could put gas in his car, so he could get the tires repaired, so he could get new brakes, so on and so forth. So we need to go back to cooperative economics.
There you
That
go.
comes from one of the principles of Kwanzaa. I'm
Kwanzaa.
not talking about socialism. I'm saying where we cooperate with each other in our economic activity. These bookstores, maybe they have a space where they can house 5, 10 kids, and it's going to be open anyway. So if we are using their books and buying their books to educate our children, they can remain open and sustainable, and the kids can keep coming in. So we're going to have to be a little bit more innovative in how we do Black community and how we operate as American freedmen. It's going to be hard. It's going to require sacrifice, but that's what
Absolutely.
we're gonna have to go back. See, we've become assimilated into the American system of gimme, 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 gimme. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and we need to go back to our the way that we used to operate as American freedmen, which was a community that built itself up, that was self-contained, where our dollar floats in our community so that we can do these things.
Okay. And so this is where I think the conversation around civics is so important. Um, it's not taught well in the schools. The students, even the Constitution, is taught to the test for the students to pass the
Yes.
test. But there's not a working knowledge of information that you're going to get. What am I going to do with this? How do I
Right.
use this? How does this become functional to me on an everyday basis? It's not presented that way. It's almost like foreign language. They
Yes.
don't teach foreign language for you to be able to speak a foreign language.
Right.
You have to be immersed
Yes.
into a foreign language situation and to learn how to speak. But you can take 2 years, 4 years of French or Spanish, and you can't have a conversation beyond, hello, how are you, and maybe a few phrases. So it's the same thing with the civics, and civics is so important. And when I was looking at civics, there's two sides of it. There's your um, responsibility. You know, we as citizens have a certain level of responsibility to make
Yes.
sure that our government is operating the way it's supposed to be.
Yes.
But instead, what we tend to do, and when I say we, I'm talking about Black people especially, we vote for people, we let people be in office over and over and over again. And once they get in office, then we don't have anything to do with them.
Correct.
Or we don't even know how to deal with them.
Yeah. So we elect these people for 2, 4, 6 years, um, and then it's like, well, what did they do for the community? And that's not the right answer. They shouldn't do any. If you elect someone to the legislature, their job, which is part-time by the way, is to legislate. That means that they take whatever you say do on a piece of paper. So
Mm-hmm.
if you say, hey, all of our 83rd Street from Cicero to the lakefront is just tore up, they say, How much does it cost to fix 83rd Street? It takes $1 million. I'm just making up a number. They
Mhm.
write the legislation, it's called the budget, and they put it forward as your representative, everybody who represents 83rd Street. They're not supposed to come back and say, hey, Miss Denise, I got $100,000 grant for you. Well, where'd you get $100,000 grant for? Because according to the Constitution, you're supposed to legislate, not execute. That's where
Mhm.
your governor or your mayor or the county board president or the president of the United States, for instance, they execute. So after the budget is put through, the executive then says, okay, we have sent out contracts, or we have 100,000 streets and sanitation workers and they pave roads or they do a thing. Your alderman, for instance, should not have a menu item. I
Mhm.
know it's cool because we get stuff and they throw parties with the menu item, or we got street lights, or they fix my sidewalk. Unacceptable because it's unconstitutional. That's not what he's supposed to do. That's not what she's supposed to do. That's what streets and sanitation. That's what the light department, the roads department, whoever is supposed to do that, and they are up under the mayor. So we have allowed um, these people to buy our votes with our money, which is sick. I mean,
Mhm.
that's so sinister that they take money out of your home equity, out of your vehicle, out of your business, out of your groceries, out of your clothing, whatever you buy for clothing, out of your internet bill, your light bill, your
Oh,
gas bill.
please.
I mean, I could go on and on and on.
Mhm.
And then they take a portion of that and buy your vote with it. And we let them do it. And then
When you
they,
say buy your vote, this is but they're paying for all this advertisement and
yes,
cars that's coming in your mailbox, these
they got a
commercials that you're
Juneteenth
seeing on the
celebration
TV,
sometimes. They at
the chicken dinners, the
come on, they got the boxes. We're coming up to the season of the boxes of food, right? We about to start getting hams and turkey from the
mhm,
alderman's office, from the state rep's office, the state senator's office. You paid for that. You're paying for that. That's
mhm,
that is totally, so you could give me a box of food, but you can't just let me keep more of my own money and I could just go to Jewel Osco
that's
and buy
right.
my own box of food.
So
Probably.
you think you're getting something for
And
free,
you're not.
but
You're
you're not.
getting shafted. And that box costs more than what you could have did with your own money. Because see, it's called money laundering, where you take money and you wash it through all these things and you pay salaries and you do all this stuff, and then all of a sudden all you get is an expired ham. To me, that's another form of money laundering. So we have to stay on these people. I look at them, and feel free to stop me at any time because I
Sure.
can go on and on about
No,
civics.
go ahead.
But like the migrant crisis, we don't want this issue in our city. White people,
Mhm.
black people, Hispanic people have all said no. We didn't ask for a sanctuary city. Harold Washington signed an executive order. Rahm Emanuel passed a welcoming city ordinance. Nobody ever said, hey, American freedmen, hey, Hispanic people, hey, white people who live here, do you want this? We woke up, it was a welcoming city, right?
Mhm.
Now we got this crisis. What did they give us? A referendum. Well, they didn't even give us that. That's what they were going to put on the table for us. Well, if we didn't vote it in, we don't need to vote it out. All you have to do is pass an ordinance repealing the welcoming city policy, because that's what we asked for. But see, we don't press them. We don't say, if the welcoming city policy is not repealed by the next election, you will not be reelected.
Mhm.
You had a group of people who did like press conferences and was supporting Emma Mitz. Emma Mitz, she voted for $70 million for illegal immigrants. I'm not doing no press conference because Mayor Johnson flipped the script on her. That's what they do to each other. She deserved exactly what happened to her because she
Why
flipped the script on us
why are they bringing these immigrants here?
to replace us.
Mhm.
That is, it's a real great replacement. Black people have become unpredictable. So, and if you remember, We were fighting for, we used to have 18 black wards. I think now it's 17 or 16 because
Mm-hmm.
we got rid of 31 that moved all the way up to the north side. So we were fighting to keep our political power, the amount of majority black wards with black aldermen, right? And so, like even now, we might be voting Republican. I don't know. A lot of black men are going one way, a lot of black
Mm-hmm.
women going another way. So we have become unpredictable. We're getting real uppity. We're sick of not being fully restored. We're asking for things like reparations, which another word for reparations is restoration.
Mm-hmm.
It is what's owed. So they got to figure out what to do with this group of rambunctious people. If
We're waking up.
we're waking again, because
There you go.
we go through these spells.
Mm-hmm.
1866, they came out with a Civil Rights Act. What
Right.
followed that Civil Rights Act? Mass immigration. We start
Mm-hmm.
bringing Eastern Europeans, Irish in. 1920, black people start getting a little bit uppity again. Well,
Mm-hmm.
1875, we had another Civil Rights Act. Black people start getting uppity after Reconstruction was over. What they do, they flooded the country with immigrants. 1920s through right before the World War II, black people start getting uppity, start becoming upperly mobile. We had the Harlem Renaissance. We thought we were jazzy and snazzy and educated with
Mm-hmm.
the HBCUs. We got to do something with these people, flood the country. So every time our percentage of the population and our political power diminishes and diminishes and diminishes. 1965, you got Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, the civil rights movement. Black people
Absolutely.
are moving and shaking again.
That's right.
What do we get? A 1965 immigration bill that completely obliterates black women who were nurses
Mm-hmm.
for Filipinos and Southeast Asians. We start importing all these new immigrants in to get rid of black people who were being upwardly mobile.
And we were beginning, and we lost our businesses in our
Yes,
communities.
yes. So that has always been the ploy. The 80s, again, black people were sick of what was happening in the 80s. The drug epidemic. We weren't seeing economic development. Who got amnesty in the 80s? I was a little kid. But we know the same group that's coming now got amnesty in the 80s the first time. And so now here we are again with another migrant crisis of people who have a socialist government minded mentality
Mm-hmm.
who can be trained to hate black people. It's very easy. It's very easy to do. So those people who are coming up here, they are indoctrinated with a racial bias towards freedmen.
Mm-hmm.
It's not towards black people, it's towards freedmen. Because the Africans come over here and they don't like us. The Jamaicans come over here and they don't like us.
That's
The
right.
Haitians come over here. The people from Bahamas, Belize, name a black country, they also come over here and don't like us. Indians, some of whom look just like us, don't like us,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that is it,
But
mass migration.
interestingly,
Yeah.
they all use the black card when they
Yes.
can to
Yes.
get
Yes.
resources and to elevate
It's
themselves.
people of color, right?
Right.
Because people of color originally, legally, was for American freedmen. We were
Mm-hmm.
called colored people. We're the
Right.
only colored people. We're the
That's what
only
my grandmother
Negroes.
used to call
Yes,
black people, colored people.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now we got this BIPOC term, Black, Indigenous, people of color. So, and which includes gay people,
Mm-hmm.
LGBTQ. So now to the Black struggle, the freedmen struggle for really just normalization under the Constitution. Everybody gets subsumed in it and they benefit off of it, except for us.
Right. Right. And they do it right in our face,
Yes.
and we go along with it.
Yeah.
You
Because
know.
because we at our state reps Juneteenth celebration, electric sliding ourselves into destruction.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody got us a bouncy house and we cool with it. I don't want a bouncy house. You know what? I'll pop a hole in that bouncy house. Like, give us our money back. We can afford our own stuff. We are a hundred, multiple $100 billion GDP. I think we're in the
Right.
trillions at this point. If you lower taxes and let us keep more of what we have, if you release the vacant lots in our communities to us,
Mm-hmm.
if you give us the school buildings, because we'll educate our own kids. We just need the building. We need a space. And if you don't want to give us the space, just stop taxing us as much as you are. If you let us keep more of what we earn, if you give us back the land in our community, we will take it from there. We do it every single time.
So, getting back to your civics
Yes.
classes, we have these different terms that people use interchangeably, and I think a lot of it is because the average person does not know. But we have ordinances, we
Yes.
have bills, we have legislations, we have laws, we have executive orders. You
Yes.
know, it's like Black people really don't know how to go at this.
Yes.
You know, so let's just say we wanted to start to, because our children are very important. That's
Correct.
our future. You
Correct.
know, and every culture looks at their future, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years down the road. So our children are our future. So let's say we wanted to begin to start working with our children, uh, using civics, understanding how the laws and the Constitution works. Where should we start?
So right now, and again, I keep saying Latasha feels because she knows a little bit more about this than I do, a lot more about this than I do. But as the law states right now, uh, you in Illinois, you are free to as it relates to homeschooling and community schools, you can open up your own schools. It's very easy. This is one of the friendliest states for independent and private schools and a homeschool. So, like, if you have your child and you're homeschooling them, that is considered a private school, just like St. Lawrence, Leo, Hales Franciscan when it was open. A Holy Angels. It's on par with that. So you can already do that. You just won't get state funding, and you don't want state funding because of the sexualization and weird ideologies that they try to put out in that. Um,
Mhm.
as it relates to the city council. So I'll just go through some of this stuff and maybe this will help people. Citizens, residents of Chicago can propose legislation to city council. And I talked about that last night. There is a way to do this. We in the Southside Republicans have drafted an ordinance to repeal the sanctuary city policy. We're just looking for signatures. I could propose it myself, but I want to get at least 100 or 200 signatures from every ward in the city, not per ward, but total, at least 2 to 3 signatures from every ward in the city so that we can show force that every ward is not on board with this. I wrote the ordinance. It is formatted the correct way. Um, we can propose ordinances. If your alderman's not doing their job, go around them so that so that when election time comes around, you can say we didn't need you then and we don't need you now.
So let me ask you one question before
Yeah.
you go on. What is an ordinance?
An ordinance is what municipal government uses. It's a law of the municipal government. So Chicago Public Schools passes ordinances for its budget, for some of its policies. The Chicago Park District will pass an ordinance. These are separate entities from the city. So
Mhm.
the Park District is not the city. That's a totally separate municipal government entity. Um, and then, of course, city council passes ordinances. The county board will pass an ordinance. And then when they meet as the Cook County Forest Preserve District, they pass ordinances for that, which is different from a bill that becomes a law at the state level down in the Illinois General Assembly or in Springfield or in Washington, D.C. A bill is a document that is moving through the legislative body, and once it's passed and signed by the executive or passed over the executive's veto, it becomes a law, meaning it
Mhm.
is the quote unquote the law of the land.
Okay. Okay. So people, can start talking to some of these churches,
Yes.
and they can begin to start to have classes for our students.
Yes.
You know,
If you have a basement, open your basement up.
open up a basement.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But
And
the churches really should be, and again, Latasha Fields has sent out letters to I think 50 churches at this point
mhm.
to really see if they are open to this type of renaissance in education. And of course, I stand firmly behind that. But that's the type of movement we should be on. And to be honest, if a church is not willing to open their doors, why are you frequenting that church? Why tithe
That's
to them?
right.
Because they're not doing the community work.
Because they should have a
Yes,
responsibility to the community that
yes,
they're in. I think that's a shortcoming with many of our churches, because with many
yes.
of our churches, the people that go there don't even live in the community.
Correct,
They're
correct,
using the building, they're using the
correct.
space.
And
And
it doesn't take a lot to do this type of education. You can use the Bible to teach a child how to read. You can use the Constitution to teach a child different types of literary, ways of writing. You can use what you already, even the Bible, that is a literary work. Yes, it's our faith, but it teaches you different kinds of writing. It has legal writing in it. It has stories and allegories and different things like that. So it doesn't take, an expensive $100 curriculum to do this.
and all of the money that they spend on textbooks, it's unbelievable how much those books cost.
But you got to think about, are they getting something from the company? Is there some type of quid pro quo with these book manufacturers? The government, which is actual people, they don't spend your money without getting something in return. So they develop relationships with different people. That's why you always see somebody leave being a state rep and they get hired by some company, or they get hired by a university. They always end up in another industry where they're making 6 and 7 figures because
Sure.
they use that to develop relationships. They're not there for your community benefit. And these are our neighbors. You live right down the street from your state rep. You live by your alderman. Start pressing them. That's your neighbor. They have no right to do what they're doing to your community. And I mean all of them, all 50 of them, every
Hmm.
single Black Caucus member in Springfield, Washington, D.C., and downtown at the city of Chicago and the county building.
Because
There is not
how many
one.
state reps do we have now? Black state reps. We
Oh,
have
that's a good question. I will look that up right now.
because we have quite a few state
Yeah,
reps. I know we have what is it, 19 aldermen? Do we have 19 black aldermen?
I think it's 17. 17.
17.
Yeah.
And
Um,
we have enough people, black people, in these positions that they should be a force. You know, they should be a force to be reckoned with. But instead, they continue to take these neutral positions on things.
we have 12 Black senators in Springfield and
Okay,
22 representatives. And of course, the Speaker of the House is State Rep Chris Welch, who's a Black man. And so they are not advocating for us properly.
mm-mm.
And a lot of the strange legislation, from comprehensive sexual education um, to the parental bullying bill that's sitting down there, to some of the worst, the Safety Act, which is terrible. Those are all Black caucus members. So it looks like it's us, and we vote for these people almost at 100% rate. We're not voting for Republicans.
And they're
When,
not even coming back informing us about what they're doing.
yes,
They're down there voting on all of these things,
yes,
and we don't even know what they're doing.
correct,
Then that's our fault,
yes,
because we're not doing our part, our due diligence
yes.
to oversee and follow what they're actually doing.
And all of that information is in the Southside Republican office. Is named after Ida. It's called the Booker T. Washington and Ida B. Wells Renaissance Center, and it's located at 85th and Pulaski, right there on the corner maps of your where you live, who your state rep is, your state senator. We've given out over 4,000 pocket constitutions. We have passed out to date since 2020. We have passed out over 15,000 pieces of literature across the South Side, knocked on over 10,000 doors.
Mhm.
And so we try to do as much as we can to educate people. Again, it's not about being Republican. This is 100% about our community.
That's right.
We're not funded by the Illinois GOP. We're not funded by the RNC. We're not funded by the Chicago GOP. I pay that rent out of my pocket for that office. We do get some donations here or there.
Okay.
This is a labor of love from those of us who love our community. And that's why we're doing it, is to bring us politically up to speed, to get us more civically engaged with knowledge in a knowledgeable way, not just out here being busybodies.
Okay. One more topic I would like for you to
Sure.
cover is reparations.
Yes.
A lot of conversation about reparations. We got a lot of different groups,
Yeah.
trying to address reparations locally.
Yes.
The Pan African group, and this we got ADOS, and we got all these different groups out here addressing reparations. And where I met a young lady, Adeline, was at the forum that the state had on reparations, and the audience took the position that this was a dog and pony show because that this is not going anywhere. But tell me what you think about reparations.
100% in support of reparations. It is a debt owed. Again, I always use the if you get hit by a CTA bus and it hurts you, CTA has to pay. CTA is government, and they have to pay reparations, restitution. And so we were kept out of things like the original Homestead Acts, the original FHA loans, the GI Bill, you name a policy, Black people were kept out for decades and decades. And so recompense has to be made in the same way we did it for the Jews that we didn't do anything to, for the Japanese that we interned and we took their property. We gave them back their property and still paid them reparations. Um, and it followed their children. If we couldn't find them, then we paid the children. In the same way that we have done from time to time to Native Americans. I mean, they have their own sovereignty at this point. And
Mhm.
so at the state, the county and the municipal level, as well as the federal government, a type of reparations is owed. What I envision that would look like is more along the lines of a Homestead Act, where you start to get like zero interest loans, not low interest, zero interest loans for economic development, for housing development. Those loans are to be should be forgiven after you meet certain thresholds. Maybe you keep the business open for 5 years, or you maintain the house for a certain amount of time, just like they did with the Homestead Act. And there should be a direct cash payment. And yes, we do know who the freedmen are. If we
Yes.
know who came from Jamaica and Belize, you better believe I know who my people are. Now, if
Mhm.
you can't determine your lineage, that has nothing to do with the rest of us who know where we came from and should get those direct cash payments and those tax incentives in order to bring us on par to close the racial wealth gap, which was artificially created. You know, this is really not a debate. One is it shouldn't be a debate about what reparations looks like, who it goes to, and if it's actually owed. These things
Mhm.
are documented proof, and it's not a Pan African thing. We should
Mhm.
stop calling ourselves ADOS. We are American freedmen. That is the term that we were called during Reconstruction. And if you read anything written by Clarence Thomas, especially in the affirmative action case, he makes the case that things like affirmative action and reparative justice, it can be lineage based, and our original lineage is American freedmen. We could
Mhm.
accept the term Negro because that's a historic term. But all this other stuff, people of color, BIPOC, black people, black people is a catch all thing, just like white people.
Hmm.
We are, our nationality is American freedmen.
So looking at it civically, you got people that they got some bills that they've got on the table at the state level with reparations. How should we be approaching this?
We should be writing our own legislation and handing it to them as a voting block.
Handing it to who?
So at the, of course, at the city level, if we write the ordinance as a group, we all take that ordinance down to the clerk's office. Put the and I can show you this. I'm sorry I don't have it with me, but there's a way to draft municipal legislation. We don't let them write our legislation because they don't know what they're doing.
Hmm.
We should get together and write it. It shouldn't take more than 6 months to write these various pieces of legislation. All we're doing is coming to a monetary amount that suits us as a community. So for the city, we're taking it to the clerk's office. With whatever committee we deem should be paying this. For the county, we would have to give it to our county commissioners because we cannot propose legislation there. For the state, we would give it to our state rep, state senator, something like that. And for federal, we would give it to like Jonathan Jackson in the first district, Danny Davis in the seventh, or Tammy Duckworth or Dick Durbin, somebody like that. Now I'll tell you, none of these people are gonna propose. They're not gonna put it through because they want to string you along and say, keep voting for me, and eventually we'll get it. No, if you don't put this through in the next session, hey, if it gets voted up or voted down, we keep trying. But if you're not gonna put it through and you're not gonna whip the votes together, you're not gonna be there.
Okay.
That's it. And we need to say we already have candidates ready to go against you.
Hmm.
We're ready to unseat you. And again, we have to stop looking to just the Democrat. I don't agree with the Democrat Party because of they care more about Planned Parenthood than they care about Black people. They care more about the LGBTQ lobby than they care about Black families, intact families. So I will never advocate for the Democrat Party at all. I'm not saying that the Republican Party is the bee's knees or anything like that. If it were up to me, we would go independent, but it takes way too many signatures to get on the ballot. It's like an uphill battle. So that's how I landed on this side. And this is the original party for the freedom. So we need to take it over and do what we need to do.
Devin, how can people take advantage of your knowledge, and how can people support the efforts that you have on the table out here?
Sure. So our website is southsidegop.org. If you forget .org, you'll get there by .com. We're also the same website is at fixwherewelive.org and .com. So just remember Southside GOP on all social media and southsidegop.org. You can email me at info@southsidegop.org. So that's our social media. I'll give out my number. It is 773-234-5506. Feel free to call, text, email, however you need to get to me. And of course, every Tuesday from 7 to 9, we do civic education. This past Tuesday was local government. I believe we're going into the party process next week. So you'll understand how the Democrat and Republican Party or any party works within the structure of the state of Illinois. We have gone through the Illinois state constitution, the federal constitution. I will redo this series starting next month. So we're almost at the end, but I will redo this, and I'll have a online portion for people who want to come online because I think that the demand is starting to pick up.
Yes.
And if you want to be a poll watcher, election judge, I got you. We can make that happen. If you want to be a deputy registrar to register voters, please reach out to me. We can make that happen. If you email me tonight that you want to be a deputy registrar, by Friday you will be a deputy registrar. It does not take that long. It's a very simple process. So anything that you need politically and civic minded, we have. And again, that office, um, the Booker T. Washington Ida B. Wells Renaissance Center is located at 8457 South Pulaski Road in the Ashburn community, right at the corner of 87th and 85th and Pulaski.
Devin, you are wonderful.
Thank you. You as well.
I am so appreciative of the work that you are doing and the passion that you have for it. And like I said, we have many strong warriors out here fighting.
Yes.
And we are very much in support of what you're doing. And I can attest to your class because I did have an opportunity to sit in on your class, and it was very informative. And that's what we need.
Yes.
We need knowledge.
Yes. Yes. And
Knowledge
I
is
accept
power.
pushback. Hey, you know, it got a little heated in that
Oh
class.
yeah, oh
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
welcome, hey, if you're a Democrat, independent, progressive, whatever, by all means come by. Let's have the conversation.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And all right. And friends, again, our winner for our book of the month is Shannon Wilson. And you will get a copy of Lovable Races, Magical Negroes, White Messiah by David Ickert. A very interesting read. And I want to thank you for coming tonight. Please go to our website at rrgbc.org and subscribe so you can become a winner of our book of the month. And also, you can make a donation or a purchase from our online store to help us with our efforts as we continue to enhance the awareness and support of our Black businesses and try to create some cohesiveness and collective work and responsibility in our communities. So thank you, Devin, for coming, and thank you, everybody else, for watching tonight. We got work to do.
Yes.
And remember, support Black businesses.